All right. I'm putting up as I'm watching the next thing. There was a suitcase being labeled in underscore. It said just John Kirby. There was no, I guess, title or any distinguishing factor other than his first and last name. Then there was Major General Hank, I believe it was Taylor. My short-term memory is really bad in this area, in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York. And it had on the date was only today a word. Now I see America, kind of, sort of, but truncated here. And it says 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, I'm sorry, Eastern Time. And this gentleman, which they have a label, Ned Price. I've never seen him before. And it says that he's part of state.gov. This whole thing gets very confusing to me, so I'm just trying to work through it.
I know we're dwelling on this, but I think it's important. So, does the State Department believe that the surge that you guys are putting forth in consular affairs officers to the airport will be sufficient to boost the processing so that you guys are able to reach the Pentagon's capacity of getting out 5,000 to 9,000 people?
At the bottom of the Pentagon message, by the way, it said only Washington. There was no Washington, D.C. or D.C. That was imperative. That was important for me. And I do not know. She just spoke and mentioned. I heard. It said consular. I'm trepidatious about what that means. I'm trying to figure it out when the humans speak.
People, or are you still looking for more people to actually get to that capacity?
So by the time we will have doubled our consular capacity, it is our current belief that we will have the capacity that we need to process as many individuals as we can to fill the flights. But we're always going to be evaluating what we could be doing differently, what we could be doing more effectively. If it turns out that we need additional consular capacity in Kabul, we won't hesitate to do that. But right now, we are confident that we have, and with the additional reinforcements, we'll have what we need.
And why haven't we heard from the Secretary of State this week?
The Secretary of State this week, you heard from him on Sunday. You have heard and seen that he has been working the phones with his counterparts. He has been at the White House the past few days now. He was just there this morning. He's been meeting regularly with the president. He's been regularly meeting with the broader national security team. He has been deeply engaged on this, and I expect you'll have an opportunity to hear from him again soon. Connor?
That the talks with the Taliban on the ground have been constructive in allowing people, access to the airport. But this is day 4, day 5 now of people having trouble, including U.S. citizens, U.S. lawful permanent residents. How can you say that it's been constructive if you're still having problems, if people are still facing violence when they're trying to make their way to the airport?
Connor, every single report of someone being blocked from access to the airport, it's a cause for concern. When it comes...
Or escalate your...
Here are the data points I can give you. We see, I'm sure, the same reports you're seeing on Twitter. When it comes to American citizens, we have had...
Now, my question is for Facebook. When they speak airport, are they speaking of like an Ethernet and an Ethernic, NIC, port system, which is where the Ether Cat5 cable goes in? Or are they speaking of aeroplane, being a winged vehicle that transports something via aerodynamics with a takeoff, some wings, and some landing gear? Just curious, because they don't really... That's just my question for today. It's August 19th, 2021.
as of earlier
For me
today,
anyway.
only
Star
a
1978,
handful,
star
of
8378,
reports. Our
Nicole
consular staff
Cattaruzza.
on the ground has had only a handful of reports from American citizens who have been unable to reach the airport for whatever reason. We are
I
continuing
did this morning as well. You were here.
the international community,
You're
directly
intermittent.
with our
Thank you.
engagement with the Taliban to facilitate facilitate access and safe passage to the airport. We'll continue to work on this through every tool that we have and that's appropriate.
I understand we've established that there's not going to be assistance for safe passage. There's no, Pentagon, you this morning or this afternoon are saying there's no capacity for us to go and get people out of these other areas and get them to Kabul. Is there any concern that this documentation, any kind of notice or anything like that, because of these checkpoints, sort of following up on that, is going to cause more of an issue for these people to access this area? And then just to double down, I mean, we have no numbers. I know that you mentioned the 6,000, 7,000, you can't break it down. You have said specifically that you have notified all Americans that are trying to get out of state. Is there any rough idea of a number and characterization that you can give? Clearly they have given you this information, clearly they are trying to get out. Is there any idea of how many Americans are still trying to get out of Afghanistan?
We have been in contact with the Americans who have requested to be repatriated. We're just not in a position to give a number right now. We're more broadly not in a position to offer an aggregate figure because we are putting forward offers to individuals who may be interested in relocating. In some cases, they may opt not to come to the airport. They may opt not to be relocated for whatever reason.
COVID. When you guys pulled people out of different countries during COVID,
Christina,
can you give us a country?
we're talking about a very different universe here. We're talking about American citizens. We're talking about third country nationals. We're talking about Afghan nationals.
Citizens.
Third country nationals. I've never even heard that addressed before in public or in private, my private residence with Linda and Lou, ever. They say third world nations, but then that's indicative of giving money to other countries that are in a poor state that can't feed and clothe their children.
We're asking about American citizens. You know how many Americans have contacted you and asked to get out. Why can't you tell us?
Kind of list, right? I mean, you have this contact, and if you're making these deals to people who have not specifically reached out to you to say, hey, we're trying to get out of here, is that going to make this a longer process?
And here's my thing. How does one ever find this gentleman and his job? I mean, you fall out of a mother in some birthing process in some area somewhere in the world. He exists in a job classification where he was fortunate enough to find his way to. How does one get a contact number for a hypothetical or an actuality of Ned Price? Like, what level of human do you need to speak to? Because I'm pretty sure what exists in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York. And then if I had his phone number, what would I ask? That would be the next question. I mean, like, I wouldn't even, if he called, I would hope that he would know what would be needed to be done and what I needed to do and instruct me rather than me to have to try to figure out what I should be asking when he's the one who has a much broader overstate and can see the picture very clearly, and I have not a clue as to what his world looks like. So that question that the reporter asks is a little sideways, but not a bad way, just confusing. And what was the other part? Yeah, it is like so hard to keep a train of thought around here, in this environment. Trying to think. All right, I'm gonna put this one up to go with the other one that I had put up earlier. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza.